All right, it is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. Groundhog Day.
What?
Groundhog Day, and here's Riggo.
Is it serious?
It is for real. Puxatawny Phil this morning.
What did he see? See a shadow?
Saw his damn shadow, Riggo.
6 more weeks?
6 more weeks of winter.
Well, seeing as how we're in the middle of it. Speaking of winter, kind of interesting. Where was this weather a month ago when Christmas was around?
Right. It's never here when you want it.
It's like Minnesota here all of a sudden, or maybe Point Barrow, Alaska, because I think this stuff started, on Saturday? It did.
Well, it did, but if you recall how cold and windy it was on Friday, Thursday, Friday was no bueno.
Yeah, it was a little nippy, but well, for me, the snow's what counts, and it's odd that we're getting snow. I mean, when I came in here, I think it kind of lightened up. I think, in fact, I don't think the sun is necessarily going to be out when we leave here, but it's going to be close because I think this weather pattern's finally moved through here. But it's unusual that, for me anyway, my thinking is that we've gotten snow basically for 3 days. That doesn't happen. You get a snow comes here. It's a weather system that, comes through, dumps its snow, and keeps on moving. But maybe this is part of the nor'easter, because that's what happens.
Well, it was the two different systems, one coming from the Midwest and one coming up from the South. Now, your old stomping ground, Central Park, at almost 18 inches.
Yeah, I saw that. And New York looked like blizzard conditions. I saw a reporter standing out there on the street. I guess he was out there.
Beautiful with some of that snow.
Oh, it is. Well, actually, it's beautiful around here right now because the snow's, it was a really wet snow, so it's hanging on trees. Not really good for, I would guess, woody type plants because all that snow sits on there. If we get a windstorm, there's going to be some serious broken branches around here, I would guess.
Well, that's when the power lines start and all that crap
exactly.
that we
Not looking
don't
forward to
need.
that.
We don't need. So Phil saw his shadow.
Yeah.
So it's the 106th time in the 135-year tradition he's seen his shadow. And I got
106 out of 135?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a winning record.
Yeah. I got to believe
Phil's
that's as
good
as any other system out there with satellite, no one, everybody else.
No. I can't go with you there. It's just pure superstition. My daughter was asking me about this the other day, and she was like taking it serious. So what? And, asking me a million questions about, Punxsutawney. I said, it's just a groundhog. And, I didn't have the whole history of it, but I knew it went back quite a ways. I said, this town in Pennsylvania. I guess it's, what is it?
It is Gobblers.
Gobblers.
The old Gobblers, let's see, Jefferson County, northeast of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And Gobbler's Knob.
Gobbler's Knob?
Gobbler's Knob.
That is where the Puxatawny Phil hangs out? Well, anyway, I said, Coco, it's just a superstition. They got something going here, and all of a sudden they got a little attention. I think it probably started in the Farmer's Almanac. I mean, I have no idea, but they probably had a pretty good base there. Well, we know one thing. There is no snow down in Tampa Bay as of yet. And it's this is the strangest. I mean, the word sizzle comes to mind, and I should say the lack thereof.
Right.
Leading up into the big game of the year, which I'm guessing, based on everything we've had, that it'll be the most watched TV show, for 2021? I mean,
absolutely.
Normally the Super Bowl is. And it's a worldwide event, but there is... in other words, the silence is deafening, isn't it? There's nothing going on.
This is bizarre. I
can't relate to it.
I'm scouring all of the sports websites and the prep sites I'm used to going to, and there's nothing. They're doing the virtual Zoom press conferences. They started rolling out, and they're trying to get creative. I think they did one with Mahomes and Brady together or whatever. But yeah, this is weird times.
That, by the way, Brady and Mahomes, it's the classic setup for that movie you hear me talk about constantly, The Cincinnati Kid, obviously branded into my brain. Edward G. Robinson, Steve McQueen, the old gambler who'd been around forever. They get down into the showdown, and it's like, you're a good kid, but as long as I'm around. And, it's almost playing itself out here.
Question.
They got to play the game. Maybe, I forget what the kid's name was in it. Well, Cincinnati Kid. But and Yancey was the character that was played by Edward G. Robinson. Maybe the kid wins this one. I don't know. We'll get into that more on Friday, on Friday. Anyway, there's a couple things that happened. Today I read an article, and it was about Frank Clark, the linebacker that came from the Seahawks. He joined Kansas City a couple years ago, maybe, something like that. And, really good football player, second-round draft pick. but really his production during I don't want to say it's pedestrian, but, not necessarily, Lawrence Taylor type statistics and all that stuff. But he said something, Todd, that really struck home with me. And he said something about and Tom Brady ends up in this whole circle of talk about how, and I don't know why he would necessarily, well, you kind of get to that point, but he's talking about if you look at what he's done during the playoffs, it's kind of extraordinary compared to what he does during the regular season, or it has been. And he's kind of saying, well, and this is the part that I could really relate to, is that there's something about, for some people, not necessarily all people, some people can shrink, some people, they step up. But when you get to that big moment, when you get into the playoffs, there's a whole nother feeling about it. And it's hard to explain when it comes to, I guess, competition. And I don't know exactly what the motivation is. Why are some people...
Could he be competent? Could it also be categorized as performance?
Well, yeah. I mean, ultimately, but that's what
I mean, a great actor? A great actor on the stage in front of a live crowd versus a player?
Yeah, exactly. But there's something about, I get, and it's got to be what do you call it? It's got to be something psychological. Because as I said, some people, they get all of a sudden all the attention's on them and they freeze. Right. You've seen it, and it happens all the time at lower levels where it used to be a baseball player, and I forget, he played for, I think he was a first baseman for the Twins or somebody, and he kind of had that where I think from moment to moment, you'd get that in your head that you were in the major leagues and kind of like, what am I doing? In other words, where you panic.
Doubt.
I've had the feeling, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, when I used to play baseball, I used to be able to catch anything within a 400-yard radius of me, a fly ball, when I played in the outfield. That when I finally got up to the college level, it was like I didn't know how to catch a fly ball anymore. It's the damnedest thing, because I don't know what happened, but it was the pressure. I just lost it. Not that, but I was scared of a fastball anyway. So it's like, who cares? I was like,
well, wouldn't you say that about? I mean, take a great surgeon. Take a great anybody and stepping into a moment where you are called upon to perform at the highest levels. And not everybody passes the test.
Right. Well, you bring up a great point there. You talk about somebody in the medic, or what about the guys that do the defused bombs? They're like there's no, when they say they take away the net, they literally take away the net. There is one mistake.
That's what we love about sports, that I think the average person has more relatability, because he played pee-wee football, high school football, played softball, played baseball, played basketball. There's some, which is, I think, for a lot of people, that's enough that they feel, oh my gosh, remember that time where I choked and there was 1 second left and all I had to do was make a free throw in my high school career and I could do, but now here's a guy in front of the world.
Right.
On the biggest stage.
Well, I had that happen to me in high school, my senior year in high school, at the regional basketball tournament. You win this game, you go to the state. I forget how many free throws I missed. I was, in other words, I was starting to, I forgot how to shoot a free throw.
It's in your head, right?
It was. I scored 33 points in the game and had 20 rebounds in Centray the next day. Riggins lost the game. And in a way, they were right.
How many free throws did you miss? Do you remember?
Well, I suppose I shot 10 and probably hit 3, something like that. I mean, it was at the end, where if you add those up, but I was a notoriously bad free throw shooter to begin with.
So they were like, foul Riggins, foul Riggins.
Must have been. Well, don't let him shoot because he can't hit free throws. Just go ahead and whack him. Let him go at the line.
Right.
And
we'll get the ball. Hack-a-Riggo.
That was me and Shaq. Well, that was a pretty good one. See who could shoot. Yeah. So anyway, I was at. But my theory was it's a free throw. You know what I'm saying? Free. There's no such thing as a free anything. In other words, psychologically, I'm kind of wrapped in a weird sort of way in that, that kind of stuff. But then again, when you think about it, well, that's where the money is made, on the free throw line. That's what separates. Think of all the championships over the years when it comes down to it. It's some guy standing there and either making them or missing them, and that's the difference between winning and losing a game.
Yeah, a little bit difference when you're shooting that free throw in the first quarter, and it's the fourth quarter.
That's the whole point.
And they're fouling you.
It.
They're fouling you because they want to see you wilt on the line. They want to see you sweat.
Exactly. The whole point of freezing the kicker. Let him think about it a little bit more.
Okay.
Which that's another one. Think of Mose and all those kicks he had to make when it was, when the game was on the line.
Because truly, you can be a GOAT in the bad way, especially in a playoff run. If you got a hot kicker, like if you have a hot goaltender. But let's bring it full circle, Riggo, because correct me if I'm wrong. On your famous 4th-and-1 run in that particular Super Bowl, though, you kind of were in a Zen moment, weren't you? I mean, you were like
yes and
ready
no.
for it.
It was just a normal play, I'm just thinking of getting a first down, and all of a sudden, as I explained last week, Clint makes a great fake, and not Lyle Blackwood, but
Don McNeil.
Don McNeil, he slips, and he can't get there, get big enough piece of him. He ends up scoring a touchdown and changes your life. Isn't that weird?
But you said you were ready for that game. It's not like there was nerves.
No, it was just like I don't know exactly how to describe it. It was just all nothing but fun, and you finally kind of get to a point where, and you got to be the kind that kind of enjoys it. That in my mind, I'm thinking they all came to see me.
Right. Well, you're right.
That's kind of an egotistical thing to say, but it's like, well, let's not disappoint. I don't know.
I don't think Mick Jagger is sitting there going, well, they came to see Ronnie Woods.
True.
Ringo knew what it was about when he was back there hitting those drums.
Exactly. So this goes to what my point is, that, and this is where Tom Brady comes in. I find it. I would like to have some. I'd like to see Tom Brady's Rorschach test. He's an unusual man. I find him very, very unusual. Now, maybe some people go, "Are you kidding?" But when you have played at that level as he has, I don't know. I mean, I can understand the addiction of the playoffs for him, and getting to this point. But I cannot understand at all for a second how he can trudge through a regular season to get there. And I only had 3 years. First Super Bowl 17, Super Bowl 18, then made the playoffs the next year, got bounced out by the Bears in the first round. But after the first Super Bowl, maybe, and for sure after the second Super Bowl, it was like the regular season. And that's kind of what Frank Clark was. He didn't say that, and you really can't say that. But at the same time, it's like, how do you get those games become exhibition games?
Yeah,
for me,
and for all that he accomplished, all that you had accomplished, I can imagine after you won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's what I'm saying. To play in a regular season game after you've played in those kind of games, it's almost not fair. For me, it was very, very hard for me to be able to latch on to the idea that this was really a serious, important game. I mean, in other words, you went out there, and I don't want to say you went through the motions, but it just wasn't the same.
Well, in the following year, leading up to the Oakland Super Bowl, I mean, you guys.
You mean the L.A.?
Oh, true.
Yeah, L.A. Raiders, not Oakland.
Well,
Raiders.
they were Oakland, and you were the Redskins. So it wasn't Washington football team. But we digress. But you guys had a monster season, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were feeling good, and like, was it? And you
feeling too good. This is what's weird about it.
Right. And so you've seen both sides of it when you guys, what happened in that was Tampa, right?
Yeah,
in that particular game.
Exactly.
So you were on both sides of it. You had the elation, and then you had it like, good God, look at how we screwed that up.
Mm-hmm. And that's my last memory of playing in a Super Bowl, and it's the one that really is more embedded than the victory. That feels worse because the weirdest part. This is human nature. Maybe not for everybody. It was for me, but I think a lot of my teammates. I can't speak for them, but by going back to that second Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowls, our wheels were slowly coming off, though, for whatever reason, as it started into that game against the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was the offense. The offense started. We started out, and I think we went up like 14-0, and maybe 21-0. I can't remember. 21-3. It was something pretty goofy, pretty good lead. Like, okay, we're just going. And the week before, if you remember, the Rams had come to town and buried them 50-something.
Yeah, that was 51-7 or something.
Yeah, and
ridiculous.
Eric Dickerson had like 15 carries for 14 yards.
Yeah.
It was like, and he was running crazy on everybody else.
Yes.
Richie Pettibone completely took him out of the game. So now, once again, I mean, it's kind of weird where you go from being focused to almost thinking that you're entitled and, hey, just got to show up. And as I was saying, we started to lose it a little bit, and part of it is we were scoring touchdowns, and then we stopped, and then Mose had come in and kick a field goal,
right.
And we went, and unfortunately, I think Mark missed 4 field goals in that game. He made the one fine at the end that counted. But every time that would happen, it would be they stuffed the offense. That gave them confidence. Missed the field goal, no points on the board, more confidence. Do it again, back and forth, and all of a sudden, that game completely changed, if you recall, in the second half.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that game would have lasted, if there had been another 10 minutes to play in that game, I don't think we would have won it. I think that the 49ers would have won
Ronnie
that
Lott
game.
said as much in the locker room. I will never forget his post game. He was so mad.
Well, the pass interference
Yes.
call. And Bill Walsh, I mean, there was, I think it was on Charlie Brown, maybe?
Yeah,
or was it Art?
and I'll never
They said there was
forget
no
it.
way you could catch that football.
Right, and I'll never forget it because, and you rarely see it this day, but Lott was just steaming, and he literally looked at the reporter and he goes, "And if you think they're that good, well, they're not."
Well,
Now get back on
guess
the
what?
jet and get your butt west.
Guess what? Yeah, the next 2 weeks would prove him to be basically correct
Well,
because we got run out of Tampa by the Los Angeles Raiders. But the whole thing there is that you take that second year and, like I said, after playing in that first Super Bowl and then that next season was because all of a sudden you were the golden child kind of, and then you get into that playoff run. And you lose the Super Bowl, I guess that's where you're supposed to double down. Me, I'm going, yeah, I'm in, but do we really have to play these other 16 games to get back to where
Right.
we were? It's like it was no fun. When I say no fun, I was like, this is work. And I never realized that's what it was until you actually get there. And then you realize there are some guys, and there is one on Sunday that he doesn't know any other way. He doesn't know that there's such a thing as having losing seasons. Really, I don't think he's ever been on had a
stunning.
losing season.
It's stunning.
And to me, like I say, psychologically, I am perplexed at how he can will himself.
Can I introduce a theory to you
Sure.
on this? So, with the enormous success, the likes of we probably won't see again with him and Belichick, and we know he's always taken short money, relatively speaking.
I think so.
In New England, he has never been like even in the top 3 or 5 paid. For him at this stage in his career, to almost need an artificial boogeyman or whatever else to separate himself from Belichick, go to a franchise that was, they had a lot of talent, but they had a lot of question marks too. And that for him to be motivated like that, because if you recall, their season had some ebb and flows.
Yeah.
And he and Arians, they didn't get along for a while, and Arians was kind of calling him out for everything that they accomplished, so that now he is getting all that adulation that he's accustomed to, needs, wants to be as good as he is.
Well, the only thing I say, I think there's obviously truth in what you're saying, but I'm going back to when he's playing in New England. I mean, this is his, 9th or 10th Super Bowl?
10th.
So he played 9 in New England. I'm going 9. And when you look at it, like you said, I mean, it's extraordinary to get to that many games, but it's just as extraordinary to look at a lot of the wins. They are by the slimmest of margins, where you really luck is such a huge part of everything that when it's all said and done, I have to agree with Tony Dungy. If you were a defensive coordinator, you'd much rather prepare for Tom Brady than you would Steve Young or John Elway. I mean, I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking as a player, because they put more pressure on a defense than Tom Brady ever could, because he just sits back and throws the ball. But he does it extremely well. You feel like, well, we know what we can do to kind of. But he's also had, and this is the other part, he's also had some great receivers. When I say great receivers, they're for what they wanted to do all the time, they seemed to come up with guys that played big in spots
They know their roles.
that never really got the credit that they were due as well, because that was a constantly changing, stage. There was new people there all the time, but they were all very, very competent people. But to me, for him to have the motivation, that's what it is more than anything. After you've played at that level and played in that many Super Bowls, I just can't understand for the life of me. This year I see it. He finally had to motivate himself. But there's also there's something about, there's nothing, and I don't know, I'm wondering if you took a poll of sports stars, if you want to, or icons in the United States right now, active or maybe even inactive, where does Tom Brady rank with them? How popular is he with the average fan? My guess is not nearly, he's not as popular as he is successful. His popularity and his success I don't think are necessarily at the same level. I don't know. I'm just throwing
That's
it out there.
interesting because I'm going to throw some names out at you, and he falls into that category, and it goes from Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan had to have bad guys to motivate him. He had to be pissed off. Tiger Woods, another one. Nobody ever thought he would come back and do what he did to win the Masters at that age. You're throwing LeBron into that now at 35. So the older athletes that are in this rarefied air saying, oh, you don't think I can do that? For Michael Jordan to actually go and play minor league baseball and hit 220, having not played it since high school, was pretty remarkable.
That is.
I mean,
no question.
and you know it. I know you have a healthy respect for it.
He wasn't scared of a fastball. Oh, was he? That's why he only hit 220.
Like I said,
you
Mama,
swing the bat, eventually it's going to hit a baseball.
I heard the same line from a coach that you heard. Mom, I'll be home early. They're starting to throw curveballs.
Yeah. That's it. That's right. I said I was scared of a fastball. That's true. He was also scared of a curveball. I don't think I saw any sliders. They weren't that good.
I don't think Brady, to your point, he may not be as beloved in pure football as he is as a personality and a celebrity and one of the most famous football players in the world.
Well, he is. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's kind of uncanny in a way. Joe Namath is still probably, after all 50 years, is probably as famous a quarterback as there is in this country. Terry Bradshaw, obviously.
Yes.
But most people think of Terry Bradshaw as a pre-game, pre-game clown that gets everybody laughing before the game starts.
Indeed,
I mean, it's not like nobody has appreciation.
And Joe Namath is selling your parents something that they need now.
I see that all the time. And Joe's doing it. Joe Theismann is doing the same spot. Have you seen that?
Yes.
I keep looking at Joe and his use of hands, and I keep thinking to myself, I'm going, now would those be the choices I would make? I'm not sure exactly because I'm waiting for the phone to ring because I want to do this. To me, I mean, Tom Brady is a phenomenon. There's just no question about it. And when you think about it, this is the irony of all ironies. Most people would say he's the greatest quarterback to ever play, but the reality is, in other circumstances, give an example. What would have happened to Tom Brady had he been drafted by the Houston Texans? Right out of college. No, right out of college when that was basically instead of David Carr, Tom Brady.
Gotcha.
Tom Brady
Gotcha.
plays down. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Probably never know who he is.
You never know.
Well, my guess is
we've always talked about. I mean, think about the great passers.
I'm just saying. What I recall is David Carr was one of the most sacked people of all 50 sometimes in 60 or so. I mean, he was breaking record after record. Might have been he didn't know what to do, but clearly the offensive line had some problems. I mean, and Tom Brady isn't the guy that Carr could run a little bit and he'd still get sacked. So my point is it's all circumstances. And you look at, like I say, the victories in these Super Bowls. It may be more impressive the fact that he's going to be playing in his 10th Super Bowl. That is more impressive than the 6 wins because out of the 6 wins, they're all of them by the slimmest of margins.
Which his performance in crunch time has contributed mightily to that success.
Oh, and that goes back to what we were originally talking about. Yeah, I think if you want him to be the trigger guy when you got to take that shot from 500 yards to take out the big bad guy.
Yeah, it's like people always, especially in these parts. What if Sonny Jurgensen had a defense? What if Sonny had, because they had an unbelievable passer, right? Dan Marino, same guy. What if? What if?
True.
But the bottom line is,
you can't play that game.
Brady has done it.
Yep.
And they built that system around him, protecting him at all costs, knowing that this guy's immobile. This is who he is. So we got to be all these different dimensions.
Yeah, you know what? And once again, that's the infrastructure around you to a certain extent. That he got it. And I don't think anybody's going to outwork Mr. Brady. I got a feeling this guy, he is a student of the game. And it'd be curious to know what he wants to do. I mean, let's just assume they win the Super Bowl on Sunday. Seriously, what's he do for an encore now, Todd? Going with your theory.
He said he's going to play past 45.
But that's where I'm telling you.
He's got it bad, Ringo. He's eat up by it, like you like to say.
Why doesn't he learn how to play? goddamn guitar
Gin rummy or something?
and go out with Mick and go on stage with Mick.
He's got the perfect life with the supermodel wife, the beautiful family, money beyond their wildest dreams.
Right.
It just, I mean, it's Shangri-La.
Well, I guess it is. No, I think that Tom Brady, is the fixer now. I mean, he's on the verge. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Peyton Manning, I think, is the only quarterback that has been the quarterback on 2 world championship teams. I think. We might have to look that up.
We're going to look that up because I think there's a third.
I know that but Craig Morton has played in 2 Super Bowls for 2 different teams.
Yes.
There's 3, or there may be a 4th one too, and I'm trying to think who they have. Obviously, Peyton Manning.
I think you just nailed the 3.
Well, I know Craig Morton's one of them, but I think there's actually one more, but I might be, like I said, I'm not 100% sure of that. But what was I going to say? That Manning actually won 2 of them, playing for different teams. I mean, he, of course, with an unbelievable defense. I'm trying to think, Tampa Bay's defense that good? They're pretty good, right? That's pretty good defense. So guess what? And
real good.
And Brady's not having the same problems Manning had at this point in his career. Manning's neck was bothering him, and he was basically he got benched during that year, right?
Good, yeah. He was not good. He was not the same guy.
And came back off the bench to hand the ball off to get the victory.
That Tampa defense is really good, and they're getting a couple of guys back in the secondary healthy. And you realize Kansas City's out without their starting left and right tackles in this game.
Yeah.
So
I just saw that.
So the stars. I mean, think about this, John. I mean, we're just a couple of years away with Jameis Winston in Tampa, and the mess that they were, and so again, how this organization has transformed itself with his arrival, and to Bruce Arians' credit, and their general manager, who has been the guy pulling the strings behind all this, to just see how fast it can be done and turned around.
Well, and like you're saying, they got the defense, and now they got guys that can catch the football. They got Brown. They brought him in, which obviously familiar with Brady because he was in New England for a cup of coffee up there. So they probably got some kind of relationship.
No question.
So he's got the tight ends. I mean, good God,
Gronk's not even the main tight end target now.
No, and I see why.
Right.
That they're that team is loaded. I mean. There's also, obviously, Brady's a pretty cerebral guy. It wasn't where he did go to Houston. Houston would be the wrong. They got Deshaun Watson down there. But I'm trying to think of, he didn't come to Washington to be, my point being.
No.
He's not going to
a fixer-upper. Yeah,
exactly.
This isn't a rehab in a neighborhood. You're betting on the come on the neighborhood in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. He went to a place that all it needed basically was a coat of paint, and I think we're good to go. Everything structurally, I like it. The roof, perfect. I like the tile. I like everything here. Just like a little different coat of paint there, and I think we got it.
That's right.
See, I'm telling you, the guy's got it going on. And you know what? On the one hand, because of all the, what do you want to call it, notoriety, obviously, that he's received over the years and when he was in New England, and like you said, he always worked his contract. But when you think about it, and I'm trying to think, though, the only other quarterback during that time was Peyton Manning who got that kind of attention. Wouldn't you say? I mean, Marino played a little bit maybe at the tail end of his career. No, he wouldn't have been. He'd have been gone.
Even still within the context of quarterback pay, right? Take a guy like a Matthew Stafford, a Matt Ryan, and some of the other guys are making more money than he was. So, it was give and take on both parts. But, yeah, he makes so much money in endorsements, too, off the field. So,
well, then he married money.
Yeah, we're not feeling.
His wife makes more money than he does.
I know.
I mean, that's the rumor. Actually, I'm kind
of. Damn you,
Brady.
I
got news for you. My wife makes more money than I do.
It's a good gig if you can get it.
Yeah, it is. It's a great gig.
All right, well, Riggo,
what's the spread?
The betting line is staying steady at -3, and not some.
I don't think it's going to move then, unless there's some kind of big news.
Unless somebody tests positive for COVID, you always have that wild card. Kansas City had 2 players who got their hair cut from a barber earlier, and the barber tested positive. So now they have tested negative. One's a backup wideout, and the other is their backup center. But their offensive line is a little dinged up, so they got to keep an eye to see if these guys continue to test negative. So we're going to check back in on Friday to have the latest on what's going on in Tampa. Maybe we got to have some type of drama, something going on. It's a Super Bowl for crying out loud.
Between now and then, we got to create some because right now, Kansas City, you just kind of go, you can't stop them, right? I mean, that's the kind of feeling you have. They've just got too much stuff going on. You don't have that feeling.
Well, I do, 100%. I do, but actually, Mr. Dexter Manley, Dexter's into this gambling thing now, just a little bit to be dangerous. So
no, he's not.
He bet me $20.
He did.
He bet me $20.
And he likes Tampa.
And he likes Kansas City.
Oh, he does.
So I got Tampa. I think that Tampa Bay's defense isn't going to stop them. I do think they're going to slow them down a couple of times. I think it's going to be a shootout. But I like Tampa. I don't think Kansas City's defense is good for it.
Well, they look like they were good for it against the Buffalo Bills in the championship game.
They did.
I mean, they look like I'm going, where did that come from? And that's a good point. But right now I'm thinking
I just wonder how much Josh Allen, how big of a moment that was for Josh Allen, first time him being in that position, and that he was a rookie and not a rookie, but a young
Well, he couldn't find his guys because he was running a lot. I know that much. They put a big brush on him.
Yeah, they did not.
And I don't expect them to be able to do that with Brady because he just gets rid of the ball too quick. That's the only fact. I mean, you got to figure. I don't know what Brady's done. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's in contact with Beelzebub or whatever, the guy down below. And he's worked a deal out with him and sold the deal. Damn Yankees, that old play up in New York, the old musical. I don't know because with him in the game, you kind of got, if it comes down to a close game, well, it's like that's just what somehow, some way, they'll kick the ball out of bounds. He'll get the ball on the 40-yard line. I mean, you can't make it up how they've squeaked it in.
We've seen it before.
They've squeaked it in.
Now think about this, and we'll close out the show with this, Riggo. You're Patrick Mahomes. This is what you do. You got a $500 million contract.
$500 million.
Why do I want to play regular season anymore? Just put me into the fight.
He ain't been around the block enough. No, you can't even compare him, Todd. Riggo out.